Welcome to everyone who is joining us for the YMCA Healthy Aging Community Cafe. My name is Heather Steele. I'm from the YMCA of Greater Seattle, and glad that this will be available for anyone to look at on their own time. Right now, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Beth Marie Fahey. We are really excited to continue our discussion about what we want to be when we grow up, because it doesn't stop, does it, Beth Marie?
No, it doesn't. Hopefully it
Okay.
doesn't. That's the fun of life.
There you go. All right. Well, we're off to a good start with a great opening sentiment like that. So take it away, Beth Marie.
Okay, well, thank you. This is part two. I know some of you were with us last week, and we began to explore this topic based on a book written by Richard Lader and David A. Shapiro. And they titled their book, Who Do You Want to Be When You Grow Old? So last week we explored the idea of not just growing old, not just getting old, but growing old. And the emphasis is on the word growing. As we age, we don't reach a point where we're done and nothing changes. Living a purposeful life means learning new things, finding new opportunities, and expanding who we are. In their book, Who Do You Want to Be When You Grow Old? Richard and David shared what they've learned from their own growing old experiences and studying others who have lived meaningful lives. They see the later stage of life, elderhood, as a liberating experience that enables us to become more authentically the person we were always meant to be with each passing day. Taking the path of purposeful aging means outgrowing adulthood and growing into elderhood, expressing more of our true selves in all that we do. Purpose and meaning emerges from choosing to follow our own path. That path is marked by a mindset that the third phase of our life is less about outward achievement and more about inward growth. The path of purposeful aging is a choice to wake up each and every day with the intention to grow and to give. Too many of us live the adult phases of our life by default. Choices we made were typically dictated by societal expectations, customs, and external demands. In later life, we are freer to make different choices, less influenced by others, and more in line with our needs, values, and intentions. We're free to be ourselves. In an earlier book, Repacking Your Bags, Richard tells a story about trekking across the Serengeti Plain in East Africa. His guide, a Maasai tribesman named Kui, was puzzled by the amount of gear Richard was carrying. He asked, "Does all this make you happy?" The answer was obviously no. He didn't like carrying all this gear, but Richard thought it was all necessary. As he observed what Cooey carried and thought more about what he had put in his pack, he began to question his choices. Why was he carrying this or that? As he lightened his load, leaving more and more back at the camp each day, he expanded his thinking to what else he was carrying through life that no longer served him or made him happy. Just like the items in his backpack, Richard gave himself permission to let go of the have tos and should dos that weighed him down. The singular promise of growing old is the experience of the freedom to let go. I had a similar experience this summer when I was also on a safari in Kenya. Our Maasai guide would tease us each morning as we climbed into the Jeep, laden with our water bottles, our cameras, binoculars, an extra shirt, our hats, sun visors, all kinds of stuff. The first day, I was fixated on capturing every animal on my camera. I was busy adjusting the focus on my telephoto lens. Then on the second day, my battery died, and I had neglected to put an extra one in my backpack that morning. I was forced to let go. I realized that I was viewing the wonders of nature through a camera lens when it was right in front of me in living color. So I sat back and just looked. What I saw lives in my memory, not in the photo gallery on my laptop. Letting go freed me to live in the moment and experience something I will never forget. You don't need to travel to Africa to learn to let go of the family home that's now too big, to let go of the need to cook a full meat and potato dinner every evening, to let go of the social commitments that don't make you happy, and to let go of the notion that old age means you're done experiencing new things. Last week, we explored 5 questions that started our process of reimagining our lives as elders. We asked old, who me? If we all end up dying, what's the purpose of living? Aren't I somebody? Am I living the good life my whole life? And how do I stop living a default life defined by society or others? This week, we're going to take a look at the last 4 questions in Richard and David's book. Who do you want to be when you grow old? Am I having a late life crisis? Will I earn a passing grade in life? How can I grow whole as I grow old? And will my music play on? Let's start with, am I having a late life crisis? There is a reason your windshield is larger than your rear view mirror. Where you are heading is far more important than what you've left behind. But for many people in later life, it's all about the mirror. Looking back is not necessarily bad. Last week, we talked about the need to reflect on the past and project a possible future. But if we become fixated on the past, it can be a sign of what has become known as a late life crisis. The challenge is it prevents us from seeing what lies ahead, and we miss out on opportunities that can enrich our lives. We've all heard of the midlife crisis. It's a classic. This is when we bemoan the loss of opportunities. We wonder what life would have been like if we had turned left instead of right. And we compensate for those losses by joining a gym, dyeing our hair, or buying a sports car. Whereas in a late life crisis, it can simply be hard to get out of our bathrobes. A late life crisis is different. It's more about the loss of relevancy or our identity. For years, it was easy when somebody asked who we were. I'm an engineer. I'm a mom of 3 kids. Now, what do you say? I'm a what? Oftentimes, a late life crisis is triggered by a crucible event in our lives: the death of a loved one, an illness, money concerns, not being able to physically do your favorite activities, or simply retirement. It's time to reimagine who we are, not what we do. The key to managing a late life crisis is not to go it alone. Reach out to close family and friends. Talk to people who will listen and not prescribe. Be open to ideas from others. A great resource is a friend who has gone through this and come out the other side a happier, more fulfilled person. Your path may be different, but it'll give you some ideas to consider. Spoiler alert, you're getting older. Everyone alive is getting older. Dr. William Thomas, a gerontologist, noted in his practice that the happiest people are the ones that shed the illusion of immortality and recognize they have limited time. They choose to spend that time focused on meaningful relationships and being their authentic selves. Let's pause here for a moment and give you an opportunity to think about what it means to live a life with meaning. So think about, what are the things in your life that bring meaning? What are the things that encourage you to get up in the morning and get going? What are the things that you enjoy that bring you happiness? And we'll circle back to this when we get to our breakout room questions. So it's an opportunity for you to think a little bit in advance. Hope you were able to capture a couple of things in terms of what you do or could do that creates meaning for you. So let's move on to the next question. Will I earn a passing grade in life? By now, you may be saying, it's easy for those authors to talk about a purposeful life. They have their health, a decent income, and a roof over their heads. What about those of us who are struggling with illness or isolation or financial concerns? First, let's acknowledge that getting old isn't easy for anyone. Some of us will struggle more or have to face challenges earlier, but none of us will escape the inevitable. Life can and will present all of us with extremely challenging, extremely difficult challenges, and we may feel defeated by them. But the yardstick you use to measure your life isn't a comparison to others. There will always be someone with more or less challenges. The true measurement is how we respond to our challenges and the contributions we make to others. We've all heard stories of people who, in the face of their own challenges, have reached out to help others in similar situations. Injured vets who volunteer to remodel homes to make them accessible for other injured vets. Parents of victims of school shootings who organize and lobby to prevent future shootings. Well-known people like Michael J. Fox, who serves as the face of Parkinson's to raise awareness and funds for research. Understand and respect that some days the best you can do is survive, but be open to the days you can give back, even in small ways. It can be as simple as showing the world you refuse to be beaten down by hardships. That's the measure of a purposeful life. So, how can I grow whole as I grow old? First, what do we mean by growing whole? At its core, it's a feeling like love. It's best understood by experience. To grow whole means, above all, to truly become the person you authentically are. It means accepting and embracing your thoughts, your feelings, your hopes and your dreams, your fears and your anxieties, all of the desirable and undesirable parts of yourself. It's about integrity and integration. Growing whole doesn't happen all at once, and there's no endpoint at which we can say we've achieved wholeness. One way we can tell we're growing whole is that we become less fearful. We're more willing to present ourselves, warts and all, for others to see, and far less fearful about admitting when we're wrong or made a mistake. We know that we have room to grow and improve. Ultimately, growing whole is about growing more compassionate, not just towards others, but also towards ourselves. Just like Dr. Seuss's famous Grinch grew more whole when his heart grew three sizes one day, we grow in wholeness every time we take the time to listen better, learn better, and love better. As our bodies decline, our hearts, minds, and spirits can grow to encompass our world. Love and compassion have no limits. They grow and expand as needed. Going back again to our past cafes on the Blue Zones, one pillar to longevity is purpose. And for most, that purpose is about giving to others. In other words, people in the Blue Zone learned to grow whole as they aged. Let's pause here again and have you think about what are some of the things you are currently doing or could be doing to keep growing more and more whole every single day? How can you learn to listen better, learn better, and love the people that are in your lives better? I hope you've jotted down a few things that will help in our discussions later in our breakout rooms. So, the fourth and last question that Richard and David asked, and that is, will my music play on? Old is just another word for nothing left to lose. It's from Janis Joplin's hit, Me and Bobby McGee. Another way of thinking about it is old is another word for everything left to gain. We've nothing to lose, we have everything to gain. So it's an opportunity for us to use this phase of our life to really experience new things and continue to grow. Richard and David shared an interview with Parker Palmer, a best-selling author, teacher, and activist. He talked about how much he enjoys being old. He found that age enabled him to shift from focusing on an occupation to enjoying a vocation. It was a profound shift in thinking from a scarcity model, where he felt he had to hang on to his past, to an abundance model that offers the never-ending reservoir of possibilities. Parker summed up his approach to aging this way. I'm not going to wax poetic about aging and dying. I simply know that the first is a privilege and the second is not up for negotiation. Another song from our youth, Nobody Here Gets Out Alive. And that's Jim Morrison of The Doors. Of course, we all know that as soon as we're born, we start dying. It's only a matter of time. In order to live as fully as possible, especially in later life, we need to come to terms with dying. We have to accept our ultimate demise and make choices accordingly. The easy approach is to say it's inevitable, crawl back into bed, and pull the covers over our head. But to live a whole life, we need a reason to get out of bed each morning, even if it's just to feed the cat. Which brings us back full circle to purpose. Purpose is showing up for life on a daily basis. If you can say you showed up more often than not, the music of your life will play on in the memories and gratitude of the people you have impacted. So let's pause here for a moment and think about, how can you ensure the music of your life plays on? What are you doing in your relationships to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your insights? How are you helping the people around you live their fullest and best life? How are you contributing to your family, your friends, and to your community? These are the things that ensure the music of your life will play on well beyond you. We have no idea when our end will come. St. Benedict says, you need to keep death daily before your eyes. But that doesn't mean that we passively approach it. I'd like to close with this quote, which I think sums up what it means to grow whole as we age. Life is not a journey to the grave with the intention to arrive safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." And this is from Hunter S. Thompson. Very similar to the message we got from Jimmy Buffett in his song about not waiting to live when he dies, but die while he's living. So that brings us to our breakout room questions for today. We've already previewed these. You've already had a chance to think a little bit about them. The 3 questions we're going to tackle are, what are some of the things you do already or might consider doing to bring meaning to your life? What are some of the things you are doing now or might consider doing to keep growing? And how can you ensure the music of your life plays on? And I will hand it back to you, Heather.
Hey, well, thank you, Beth Marie, for the time it took to, read that book and summarize it so usefully to us into these bite-sized chunks and these topics for us to ponder in our breakout rooms. And great to have that opportunity to take some notes before we are in that time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. We'll get ready for our breakout rooms, those of us who are here together.